individual girls and fake cigars, wine, caffeine, it's like an endless high. But going out with you, I'm just another dude who's in love with you. I'm not a superstar.
My name is Wax Dey. I'm from Bamenda in Cameroon, and I describe my music as Afro soul. Yeah, it's a mixture of Cameroonian soul and afrobeat. Yeah.
I wrote a song for you, so I can sing to you. How this feeling's true. This life is happy or real. Mr. Real, Mr. Regular. You make me feel like a superstar.
My music as Wax Dey really is, I think, a mixture of lots of influences and genres from across the continent. So I think that sets me apart from the average Cameroonian musician.
She give me sexy, she give me slow, she give me for 60, she give me for 60, she give me lighter.
I've had a lot of experiences from my childhood into my adult life with different kinds of music, playing with them. When we were quite young, we grew up with the Motown sound, the sounds of Smokey Robinson, Linda Ronstadt, the Four Tops and the Temptations. And then, you know, I got to listen to the music of Bob Marley when I started learning the guitar. I played a lot with sounds like Nde Ndifonka and Richard Bona, which is really Cameroonian Makossa and soul at that. Much later got introduced to soukous music, you know, the music from Congo, Zaire back then. But I think what really defined me as an artist was the fact that I moved to South Africa, where I was able to, you know, experience a whole different musical culture, dealing with sounds like Kwaito, South African house music, you know, Makanga, some of the different, you know, genres that South Africans like, even South African gospel, which has a different flavor. And becoming a producer in South Africa, getting immersed into those sounds. Several years later, starting to introduce artists like Flavor, Don Tom into South Africa with their own Afrobeat and high life sound, Nigerian Afrobeat, when Nigerian music exploded. And then, you know, totally moving into Nigeria and starting to produce, you know, songs with artists like D'banj, working with Omawumi, Yemi Alade, and them. I think, you know, and then finally coming back, you know, to Cameroon to become part of this new movement where Cameroonian urban music, you know, it's taking its root with the inclusion of, you know, your Bikutsi and Makossa kinds of sounds with urban music, with urban sound of today. It's given me a really 360-degree kind of take on music as when it comes to African music, and which has influenced me as a person. You will not be wrong to say that, you know, my Cameroonian identity is not very powerful in my music. I don't think it's missing. I just think that I've chosen to play with all of the influences that I have, and, you know, in a sense to make something much richer than, you know, than any one rhythm, any one culture has to offer me at this moment. Yeah. So if you listen to a typical Wax Dey album or offering right now, it is actually a mixture of all these different sounds. It kicks off with South African house, traditional house. You know, and then it goes into Afro trap, you know, it goes into soul, it goes into Kizomba, explore those sounds, it goes into Afrobeat and Makossa, like the song I do, Yemi Alade, and even to just, you know, soul, like real soul music, a song I did with Nasty C, the South African 360 itself. And I think I've chosen like that eclectic route as a person. Individually, it's a personal choice. I think music is to be enjoyed and shared with different cultures, different people, and that defines me most as an artist. Yeah. I started off as a jazz performer, and did, you know, I performed with a live band for quite a while. And the first artists I produced under my record label Lollipop were really jazz artists. Think of Peggy Mateke. But then in around 2008, 2009, when there was a big shift from, you know, from a contemporary sound, you know, being jazz, to a move to the urban sound in Africa. I had to take a strategic business decision to move as well and start to explore the other new urban sounds across Africa. And so I found myself, you know, really starting to connect with lots of different artists and in a bit to learn a lot about you know, these urban sounds, because besides just being a singer, you know, I put a lot of emphasis on the business side of music and into music publishing and things like that. So I found myself, as I said, starting to work with different artists from across the continent. Started by collaborating with, you know, the late Deep. Started doing house music together. I did a remix of "I Don't See My Wife," which was, you know, probably the breakout hit, a Nigerian hit song in Cameroon, and that really defined the explosion of Nigerian music in Cameroon and Francophone Africa at the time. That was back in 2010. And then, you know, very recently, I found myself then working with just lots and lots of different artists from across the continent. In 2014, you know, I got to, I was, you know, for the One campaign, for the first time, I got to put together 19 artists to produce the mega hit song, Coconut Chocolate. And it was such an enriching experience for me, getting to work with, you know, Tikenja Fakoli, Fali Pupa, Omawumi, Dibanch, Judith Sipuma, Vuzinova, just a really host, even Rachita from Algeria, just a really big host of different artists coming together to create music. I found a musical connection with Omawumi, for example, and we did the song Forever, which turned out to be a really big hit. And then, you know, subsequently, you know, I've been able to, you know, explore, you know, with K-Switch, you know, a different kind of dance sound, African urban sound. I got together another big song which I did was a big collaboration which I did was getting together Banky W and Casper Nyovest from South Africa together with Simpiwe Dan and Runtown. We did the song Viva Mandela, which was a tribute song to Nelson Mandela. And that, you know, I think has been one of the most successful, you know, in terms of how far the song has gone, but also in terms of the millions of downloads we're able to achieve on the MTN platform. I would say that, you know, in terms of music and where you go as an artist, quite often, you know, except, you know, I would say for the traditional jazz artists, Manu Dibango and them, who, you know, have a very fixed focus and a clear path about where they're going in terms of their performances and what the world expects from them. There is really no crystal ball nowadays that tells us, you know, where an urban artist is going to move, because, you know, pop culture is quite dynamic nowadays. You know, we're living in a very fast world. We live in a bubblegum world where one thing is tweeted and spat out the next minute. And if you're that kind of artist, I'm not, you know, I don't follow the popular sound, but I always try to be, always try to be around that and get elements of that in my music. So my music is very dynamic in itself and its nature, and I try to move and explore new and different sounds every single time. In terms of my future, I definitely think that, you know, there is a crystal ball for what I want to become and where I see myself positioned in the music industry. I'm an activist at heart. I've always been an activist. I think that music serves a greater purpose. Music serves a greater purpose than just pleasing people, but music is also a tool that can be used to change the world in very many ways. We've seen musicians, Hugh Masekela, Miriam Makeba, being influential in the end of apartheid, and we still see, you know, to me, the evolution of music, for example, in Cameroon today, is more than just, you know, young people coming up and rebranded and coming with all these great sounds. It signifies the evolution of an entire country, an entire civilization, if I can put it that way. Because when the music moves, everything else moves with it. So I always try to look at my future from that perspective, that through my music, I can impact on the country in a very positive way and an impact on people. So the one thing that has stayed constant, and I know that I've built from the time when I started practicing music, is that ability to use music and touch people in different ways. Whether it's through, you know, the songs, the first single I released, which was Alligator's Arms, A Cry Against War, or whether it is, you know, through songs like Coconut Chocolate, which was meant to promote agriculture, or Stronger, which I initiated with YG and Yemela and Judith Sipuma, which is about women empowerment. But my music always serves a purpose. The industry out there looks big, you know, but we are no smaller. you know, yeah, and we should not be scared to go out there and push and test the waters and, you know, and achieve anything that we want to achieve. We have really great content coming out of Cameroon. Cameroon is very, I think, blessed in the sense that it's the only country in Africa right now that, you know, has is able to be francophone and anglophone at the same time, cut through those different markets, has those influences, is able to understand soukous and understand afrobeat at the same time, you know, and, you know, sing in pidgin English and all of these things. So we have an enormous potential in terms of our content and untold stories in Cameroon. Now, where we place that content and how we position those artists is partly up to the government, it's partly up to business, but it's partly up to us, the artists, you know, to prove our mettle. And I think that I'm very, very instrumental, or I should be very instrumental in showing the way to a lot of artists about, you know, where we should go and where we should be.